Imagine a river stretching for 500 miles, cut into the mountains and carrying glacier-fed water all the way from Alaska to Arizona. Now picture that same river powering cities, irrigating deserts, and even refilling the Great Lakes. This was the bold vision behind NAWAPA, the North American Water and Power Alliance. It was a plan so vast and so ambitious that it would have been the largest engineering project in human history. The price tag alone was staggering, the modern-day equivalent of more than $1 trillion. Please take a moment to subscribe and like the video. It really helps the channel. For a brief moment in time, it seemed like it might actually happen. In the decades after World War II, the United States was changing at a breathtaking pace. The baby boom brought 76 million new people into the country. Industry flourished, suburbs spread out, and water use surged by nearly 100 billion gallons a day in less than 2 decades. But there was a problem. The western half of the country, from California to Texas, is mostly arid land. Some areas receive less than 10 inches of rain a year. Combine that with searing heat and rapid evaporation, and you have a region that was never naturally equipped to support tens of millions of people, vast farmlands, and water-hungry industries. Mexico faced a similar challenge as its cities expanded into equally dry landscapes. Meanwhile, to the north, rivers in Alaska and Canada ran wild, carrying billions of gallons into the ocean every single day. The imbalance was plain to see, but no one had yet found a workable way to fix it. By the middle of the 20th century, engineers had already reshaped some of America's rivers in dramatic ways. The Hoover Dam, completed in 1936, created Lake Mead, the largest reservoir in the country. It was soon joined by the Parker Dam and the Glen Canyon Dam, which expanded water storage and provided new hydroelectric power. Projects like the All-American Canal carried Colorado River water hundreds of miles into California, turning desert land into thriving farmland. On the surface, it all looked like a miracle. But there was a catch. Every one of these projects depended on the same limited source, the Colorado River. As more people tapped into it, less remained for everyone else. Reports to Congress began to warn that if America's population ever reached 600 million, existing water supplies would collapse. Something entirely new would be needed to meet the demands of the future. That new idea came from Ralph M. Parsons, one of the most influential engineers of his time. His company had built oil refineries, nuclear plants, and major infrastructure projects around the world. In the early 1960s, Parsons proposed something no one had attempted before: a water redistribution system spanning an entire continent. At the heart of the plan was a deceptively simple idea. Take the excess water flowing out of Alaska and Canada and move it south. Making that vision a reality required a blueprint of almost unimaginable scale. The plan included 369 separate projects, from dams and reservoirs to tunnels and canals, all linked together into one system. The Rocky Mountain Trench in British Columbia, a vast natural valley nearly 500 miles long, would be flooded to serve as the main holding basin. From there, water would be pushed and pulled across the continent, with gravity doing most of the work and hydroelectric pumps taking care of the rest. It was a vision to re-engineer North America itself. The scale of what NAWAPA promised is difficult to comprehend. The United States alone would receive 78 million acre-feet of water every year, more than the total annual flow of the Colorado River. That influx could turn 60,000 square miles of dry land into fertile farmland. It would also generate nearly 4 gigawatts of clean hydroelectric power, enough to supply millions of homes. Canada would benefit too. A massive transcontinental canal running from Alberta to Lake Superior would help stabilize the Great Lakes, securing one of the most important shipping and industrial hubs in North America. Mexico would see its irrigable land triple, while also gaining 2 gigawatts of new power. Economists projected that NAWAPA could generate around $30 billion annually, the equivalent of nearly $300 billion today. This was not just a water project. It was a vision for reshaping an entire continent's future. What is remarkable is that on paper, NAWAPA was technically possible. Every individual component had already been proven elsewhere. Dams, reservoirs, and canals of this kind had all been built before. The only difference was the scale. Engineers estimated the project would take 30 years to complete, which was not unreasonable compared to other mega projects like the interstate highway system. But the obstacles were enormous. The first was cost. Even in the 1960s, the price was set at $100 billion. Adjusted for today, that is more than $1 trillion, twice the cost of building America's entire highway system. The second problem was politics. The project required unprecedented cooperation between the United States, Canada, and Mexico. One dispute or change of leadership could derail decades of work. And then came the environmental consequences. Flooding the Rocky Mountain Trench would destroy forests and habitats across thousands of miles. Indigenous communities would be displaced, with almost a fifth of the Yukon's population forced to move. Entire ecosystems like the Yukon and Peace Rivers would be devastated. Salmon runs would disappear, wetlands would dry up, and critics warned of permanent damage. One opponent even called it the hydrologic antichrist. The more the public learned, the harder it became to defend. By the early 1970s, momentum had vanished. Public opinion was shifting. The environmental movement was growing stronger, with the first Earth Day in 1970 and the Clean Water Act in 1972. Suddenly, reshaping entire landscapes was no longer seen as visionary, but as reckless. Political backers like Congressman Jim Wright and Senator Frank Moss lost their influence, and no government was willing to cover the astronomical costs. NAWAPA quietly faded into history, remembered only as a grand idea that never left the drawing board. But the story did not end there. In 2012, a controversial group attempted to revive the concept under the name NAWAPA 21. Their plans were vague and the movement quickly fizzled. But the fact that it resurfaced at all shows the lingering fascination with the project. And today, with California enduring historic droughts, the Colorado River running dry, and Lake Mead at record lows, the question lingers: was NAWAPA dismissed too quickly? Around the world, other nations have attempted water megaprojects on a massive scale. China's South-North Water Transfer Project already moves trillions of gallons across thousands of miles. Saudi Arabia has invested billions into desalination plants. Australia has built continent-spanning pipelines to sustain its dry interior. In that context, NAWAPA no longer feels impossible. It feels like the kind of project the modern world might one day reconsider. NAWAPA was born from ambition and anxiety. A belief that engineering could solve the limits of geography. Some still see it as a missed opportunity, while others view it as an environmental disaster narrowly avoided. What is clear is that the core problem it sought to solve has not gone away. Water scarcity remains one of the greatest challenges of our time. So we return to the same question that haunted planners half a century ago. If a modern NAWAPA were proposed today, would climate change make it more necessary than ever, or more dangerous than we can allow? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. And if you want more stories about the mega projects that almost changed everything, make sure you subscribe, because the past may hold the blueprint for our future.